Well, now we are switched to a gear to, many of our colleagues from industry, HyLine International, which still have a huge interaction and also training some of the best students in the industry. So they will share some of the work, how SU's, mentoring and collaboration have an impact in the industry. So I guess you guys probably introduce yourself because you have a group of Petek,
yes,
Ania, and Kaylee. Right?
We couldn't decide, so we are sharing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's been a great honor to be here today, and congratulations. I don't have a blood lineage to sue. I'm a sad person in the room today, but interesting enough, I stay in the industry, in poultry industry, like Sue did, and throughout all these years, we had unplanned, random mini vacations together, mini moments together. I promise I didn't put the Adriatic swimming thing here. So all those, yeah. All those moments lead to a good friendship, which I'm very grateful. Thank you. So this presentation is a journey of an egg we put together for Sue. And I hope you all had a little bit of egg this morning. And if not, I'm sorry for you. You are missing a lot. So the journey of this egg, how it ended up this morning on the breakfast, it's a very interesting journey. And we all take it granted. It's a combination of a science and some clever people being in part of it. And today it's the cheapest animal protein in the world, and millions and millions of people consume. So journey started many, many years ago in Mesopotamia, India, or China, not sure which one, maybe all together. And this bird moved around with people. And it was the red jungle. And then that red jungle ended up being a breakfast that we all enjoyed this morning. Beginning of this century, around the First World War time, this bird was a dual purpose. And during that time, it starts deviating. Okay, some of them is laying more eggs, some of them is more plump and good for the soup, kind of a thing. People notice. And then the world got into a war zone kind of a situation, and people forget about that. But some people kept eye on it, and then this bird was a backyard thing that everybody was enjoying the protein. And then after the war, people say, hey, we had this bird, meat and egg. How about we kind of look into the groups that who is laying more eggs than more meat? And then start the project, separating them. And it leads us to today's industry, actually. And what we are going to focus today is the part that's colorful, beautiful egg we all enjoy in one way or another when we consume many, many different products. And what I am not going to talk today is this guys. And totally out of my field, and I will leave that part to my dear colleague to take over after me. So the story started as an industry with a great vision Dr. Henry A. Wallace had when he was in the Pioneer cornbreed, and he said, well, I should apply the same idea to the poultry. And he did. 1936, he founded HyLine International, HyLine Farms, I should say. And then that led a complete different story. And same time, almost close to that time, with the industrialization and the steel becoming a thing for the world, cage manufacturers established. And with those cage manufacturers, coupled up with the poultry industry, everything changed overnight. And HyLine had the first egg quality lab. They were focusing on the specialization of the egg and the shell and all those components. And then Dr. Henry A. Wallace hired two World War II air pilots as a geneticist, trained as a geneticist. They were not geneticists, but they were trained by him as a geneticist. So their contribution to poultry world was very significant. One of them came up with the feather sexing, which whole industry is living by with. Other ones started the blood typing and collaborating with the later on collaborating with Dr. Briles, and eradication of leucosis came along 1980s, and HyLine had always a great vision. So what happened around 1996 time, HyLine see a big opportunity and something was coming up, and they hired our very own Dr. Janet Fulton, who was a first student of Sue. So with that vision rests the story. We open up a very different window to the poultry industry, and around similar time, of course, first chicken map was published, and the story moves on to a different level. So around 2012, we had the first genomic selection implementation into our lines, and that followed up 2014, 54K SNP genome. And now today, all the lines, all the selection lines are on the genomic data, genomic selection, and we moved on to 2019 low-pass sequencing. So this is the molecular part. Below that arrow is the structural, because when you change how you look at the data, and when you take that data, put into an application, you cannot use old-fashioned production systems. You need to arrange and modify your production systems, go along with that data or keep up with that data. So multiple farms introduced operation. We said, okay, we have this genomic information, we can go with the shorter generation interval and cut down some timing here. That's what HyLine did. And all these happened in a very, very short time frame. And you will see the impact on the following slides. And today is a very different era also. We have a technology, we have an infrastructure, but now societies weighed in. So with that society, we needed to look into our operations, okay? We are moving into a different production system, aviary systems. So we introduced 2020 collecting data on aviary systems. Now we are on the doorstep of a very different data collection time. We are moving into aviaries with RFID technologies, and that is going to replace, I don't have the time frame, but the first application is 2025, replace individual single bird cages. So there won't be more cages. All the pedigrees, which is unheard, I'm still trying to digest that. Pedigree cages will be replaced with RFID technology and aviaries. So everybody will be moving around. It's posing us a different opportunities, how we look at the data, how we collect data, how we incorporate that data into our selection program, right? So let's talk a little bit about, I know everybody knows this here, but I need to say a little bit, couple of words about it. So where we are at today, HyLine International, on the pedigree level. We are not a big player in the market, but we are the starting point. So all the pure lines are there, all the technology, all the science goes to pedigree lines. We select them, we generate grandparents from the pedigrees. Those grandparents produce parent stocks where the money is, and those parent stocks produce those commercial chicks for the market. So the whole step is 4 years, 4 generations. Now with the genomic help, that step somewhere cut down to 2.5, 3 years, which is a huge thing for the poultry industry. It's not the level of dairy cattle right there, but still by us is a big thing. So today's program, we focus on, of course, egg numbers. Without egg numbers, we can't sell anything. So egg numbers are on the top. Health of a bird is the big part of the program, and robust performance under challenging conditions. Those traits are a new kind of addition to the program because of changing production systems and egg quality, adaptability, alternative systems, and the big one is the welfare. So all program is focusing multiple points here. It's shaped with the industry, it's shaped with the customers' expectations. So today's poultry industry is a very diverse system. And we have conventional cages. We need to fit these girls that you see on the screen, 5 of them, 5 different products. They need to perform in conventional cages, but also they need to perform in colony systems. They need to perform in aviary systems. They need to perform in free range. So same genetic. It's like asking a miracle. And yeah, it is. And also we need to pay attention. Now they are integrated to our life in our society, the human health and the bird health part. Bird flu is a real thing, and salmonella is a real thing. Newcastle is a new thing, and skeletal health. All these needs to be accounted, and they are the part of poultry operations. We cannot separate them. Of course, market preferences that defines who likes us, who doesn't like us. So some markets, they want white bird, white egg color. By the way, brown, white, same egg. Really, there is no difference. Some like pink, which is my preference. And some like green. And some says, I eat only organic, nothing else. Good for you. And someone says, well, I really want to get nice, cheap animal protein. I don't care. I go with the conventional. That's fine too. Some says, I want large eggs. Other one says, I want small egg. Hey, come on, this is only 5 little lady out there. And you are asking all these. Yes, that's why you are paying for the geneticists, right? So what we have also nutrition. Nutrition sector today, business, is ginormous. Compared to breeders, they are huge. So what they do, they provide all different additives, all different amino acids, and this and that. And if you are living in the America's part, corn and soy is a big thing. If you are in Europe, wheat is a big thing. So, and then if you go to India, aflatoxins are a huge thing. So how these girls gonna cope with all these different stuff, right? So this is what we do today in the reading program. And I don't want to talk too much, but I just want to give you a snapshot here. What science did. It's not the success of an industry. This is not the success of a geneticist, which I like to say, but not. This is a science. This is the animal model impact. This is the genomic impact. This is how the selection programs and the science put us today. So what you see on the screen, egg production of HyLine brown, 1985 versus today. 279, only 80 weeks. There were no data after 80 weeks. Today, same time, we are at 383 eggs. And egg size changed only 2 grams. What is shocking when I looked at this data, what is shocking is same bird at 20 weeks was 1.88 kilogram 1995. She is still 1.8 kilogram today. And she was eating 90-gram feed, consuming 90-gram feed 1985. She is consuming 90-gram feed today. So the difference is congratulations. It's the science comment. That's it. So from this point on, we stop the history. We go with the big data, chicken data.
My name is Kaylee. I think I was Petek, but I do share blood with Sue. I did my PhD with Sue from 2014 to 2018, and then I went straight from Sue to Petek. So the blood is mixing that way. Yes, I think Petek told almost the whole story, so I will try to give a little bit of more details where I can. I'm going to talk about kind of what life looks like at HyLine today on a day-to-day basis. So at this point in time, our selection is kind of made up of these key traits. Egg number, obviously most important, probably always will be. Egg weight, very important. Also shell quality. The shells have to be strong enough to make it to your house or strong enough to hatch a good quality chick, depending which part of that pyramid you're operating in. Also, we see a huge rise in welfare and health related traits in terms of importance to us. And of course, we can't let our guard down on the efficiency of these birds. HyLine is #1 in the market for bird efficiency, feed efficiency, and we need to hold that, hold that point in the market. So for all of those data that go into our selections today, we have several sources that we get that information from. We have individual phenotypes where it's one bird in one cage, and we know everything about that bird because we know exactly it's only her in that cage. We know every egg that comes out. We know everything about that egg that came out. We know exactly how many grams of feed she eats, exactly how much she weighs, and we know that thing at several different time points across her life as well. That's kind of the history of animal breeding, especially in the poultry industry. And from there, it has progressed throughout the time. As Petek mentioned, we have expanded into some cage-free operations where we still manage to attain individual phenotypes. We also have several sources where we are collecting family data. So these are group type cages where you'll have hens all from one sire within that cage. Some of those are on our research farms and some of those are in the field on commercial farms. And we also have a huge molecular lab program. We got Janet and Travis back there. Thanks, guys. They do a ton of work for us, contributing to genomic selections and other types of molecular data. So just kind of splitting out that information to a different perspective. From the individual bird cages, we get all the data from anywhere from egg numbers to egg qualities, feed efficiencies, fertility, hatchability, mortality information. In the family settings, we kind of reduced that list a little bit, and we cut it down to egg numbers, a little bit of egg quality, livability, and this is where we really start getting into our robustness traits. And then from the molecular program, SNPs, haplotypes, sequencing sometimes. It seems like Janet and Ania always have some sort of collaboration with somebody about different blood types relating to immunity or mites or something. And then even now looking towards the future, we're looking heavily into different sexing technologies through molecular avenues. So I will just highlight a few traits, the few of the less mainstream traits that we're working on. For welfare, feather cover in the laying hen industry is very important, especially in the markets where they want to see a good value on their spent hens, and also in the markets where the consumers are very concerned with the welfare of their animals. So this trait we specifically get from our group house individuals because it's a social interaction behavior trait. And we collect those on a by sire basis. So we just score that pin of daughters according to how visible their skin is at different levels from 0 to 5. 0 is a beautiful, fully clothed bird, and 5 is completely naked. Some of our newer traits and facilities coming into our program. This is a cage-free kind of, not quite aviary, but kind of a mix up between that facility where we focus really hard on our nesting behavior. So as the industry shifts from those kind of colony cages that were typical and normal mainstream 20 years ago into what we see now, and even in the next 20 years that shift into those cage-free housing types, that bird now is required to have to go and find the nest and lay the egg there. So a lot of laying hens were not historically selected in that manner, and now they're being expected to exhibit those behaviors. So it's something that the laying industry is having to shift on from the genetic side to achieve those new standards of performance. So in this facility, we are able to capture individual nest egg productions. And of course, we are also recording mortalities. We do routine keel bone assessments, and we also take genotypes from every individual in this facility. So for us, this is kind of like a SIB test. These birds do not come directly back into the breeding program, but their sisters are here, and all of the data they contribute is extremely valuable. So one of our kind of new cutting edge technologies is a keel bone project with Huijan talked about earlier this morning, collaborating with Huijan and his team. And we also have a parallel collaboration with the Rowland Institute and Ian Dunn. Both teams are working on different ways to assess and analyze the health of keel bones in laying hens. Oh, and they're looking at both birds in cages and the birds in the cage-free environment that I just described to you. Here's just some preliminary X-ray pictures that were provided to us from Huijan's team. So on the left, that's a beautiful, perfect keel. On the right, she has a small fracture on the tip of the keel. That picture also demonstrates very well the location of the egg within her body. A lot of times you will hear mention of maybe the keel is getting broken from the passage of the egg through the body. Maybe the egg is pushing outwards on the keel and fracturing that bone at that time. But the X-rays just really don't support that, because you can see there's quite a big different distance between the egg and the keel. So from that, we're kind of hypothesizing that likely most keel deformities and injuries are coming from the external environment, not from the inside egg pushing out. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Ania.
Hello, I'm Ania Wolc. I'm genomic geneticist, and it's a pleasure, really pleasure to be here. I'm also not a direct progeny of Sue, but I had the pleasure of working with her for 14 years and watching her leadership and listening to her advice in advisory meetings and how she interacts and how she encourages women in science, especially, which I think is very important and huge role she has had and impact she has had on us. And Joseph already told you how cool genomics is, so I'm going to skip that part. But to get to genomics, we had a little bit of history. Like we had in phenotypes, we needed tools to get to genomics. So when the molecular laboratory started in '96, all they had was microsatellites, Western blot, Northern blot, this kind of stuff, which didn't have as much information as we have these days and was kind of expensive and not very fast. Well, it was fast to do 5,000 tests per week at that time, but then we got SNPs. In 2004, chicken genome was sequenced, which gave us a huge amount of information. And instead of having 1,000 microsatellites, now you have 39 million SNPs that you can work with. And from that information, it was possible to develop SNP chips, which dramatically reduced the cost per individual SNPs. And then if you look at low-pass sequencing, when you try to calculate what's the cost of individual data point, it's pretty much nothing. And now we'll go through a little bit of history that Sue had with HyLine researchers. So we start with her first PhD student that had impact on the poultry industry, which are the papers with Dr. Janet Fulton on immunology. Then the second type, when you have this basic science data, you can start to make association with the traits. So HyLine has a long history of working on Marek's disease resistant and quite successful progress in that trait. And next disease that Sue had lots of impact on, and that's international collaborations, very international projects, is Newcastle disease. And that's how we got Kaylee Rowland with her PhD with Sue. Then when you have this data, then you try to make an impact and develop breeding programs for international communities. And that's where Tapua will be coming, and hopefully soon defending will be another PhD that Sue was involved in his education. And then, of course, the most important part for me, Sue was really essential to developing genomic selection and the breeding genomic experiment that was performed at Iowa State that proved that genomics can be beneficial for poultry industry. Maybe we don't gain as much as dairy cattle. We didn't have 6-year generation interval, but when you collect eggs to 100 weeks and you can shorten that, that gives you also benefit. And accuracy is super important for us because we have very strong selection. So you have to make sure that you choose the right birds. And then we were also asked to show a couple of newer projects. So with this aviary data, they are in different environments, different countries, and sometimes those environments happen to be challenging. So here we have an egg production curve in aviary, and exactly at these points, the birds were hit with heat stress and feed challenge. And some of them kept lying, and some of them didn't. So based on them, you can develop a trait, for example, how much drop they had in their production. And when you sort based on that trait, we can see that there are some birds that were lying at 100% and they dropped to 0 or came back and didn't come back. But then you have some birds that had nice production and you don't even see the impact of this challenge that happened here. So should we select just on the variation? And we look at this graph and we say no, because this bird had 0 variation. It was not laying eggs when it was good. It was not laying eggs when it was bad. So you always have to look at both. What's the production? And then secondarily, what's the variation? Another project that we are looking at is purebred versus crossbred. And we had just, if you were here like a month ago, our postdoc had a presentation about genetic correlations between livability of birds that are crossbred and are purebred. And in his research, he found that there was pretty high genetic correlation for the lines that he had in the same environment. So we can use information from both purebred and crossbred progeny to improve livability of chickens. And the last project I want to say is about methodology. So people publish papers, new papers, that this new model that is coming up is the newest and greatest and beats everyone else. And if I see that, I don't have strong bias. I like it when it comes from Iowa State and it's the best, but if it comes from somewhere else, then I want to try it, I want to see it. So here we compared different methods, and they are in different groups of methods in different colors. We have pedigree, and luckily for my job, I'm genomic geneticist. The genomic methods are always better than pedigree. So that gives me a little bit of security to do. But then we looked, these are methods developed at Iowa State. These are methods developed at Georgia. And for some traits, one is better. For other traits, another one is better. So at least until now, there is not a clear winner that wins for all traits. And sometimes we can understand why it's better for some traits. If they have big UTL, then usually the Bayesian models can fit those traits better. If they are pretty uniform, lots of small effects, then the single step GBLAB type of methods, they were good. And then we tried their newest, bestest, wonderful method. And for most of traits, it was not any better than the models we've already been using. So, sorry, nope, there is no winner, nothing that works the best for everything. So what can we say about the future? We've got the molecular data, and as Joseph said, we have terabytes to petabytes of data, which is awesome for research, which has lots of opportunities. It's a big challenge. And then we want to use this data, especially to improve these new traits related to disease resistance, to gut health, skeletal integrity. And we want to help this information, molecular information, to select birds for alternative and the new and future housing systems. So we want to breed for the bird that will feed the world in the years to come. And then for the end, we have a couple of pictures from the history, and we want to thank Dr. Lamont for all her contributions to the poultry industry. We're very grateful. And also through mentoring, and I think like 80% of HyLine team had some kind of ways of interaction and working with Sue. Thank you.
Any questions for the wonderful talk here about the HyLine international work?
I have a comment.
Okay.
So Ania, you mentioned that some of the Bayesian methods came from Iowa State. I want to point out the pedigree method also did. It's the industry.
Yeah, but that we didn't mean anywhere. So.
Anyone have questions? Okay, James. Somebody on the stage.
I have a question. This goes to the folks from HyLine and maybe Joseph from before as well. Data storage was mentioned a couple of different times. In industry, how do you put a budget on that kind of data storage? Obviously, it differs from discovery to kind of production phase in terms of using data. We struggle with this in academia equally as well, but you guys are talking about very large scales of data. So I'm curious, how do your companies decide how to put a spending limit on that, if you will? It's got to be hard, I imagine.
So similar to Joseph, we have our in-house servers and we have our in-house storage. We currently don't use much of the cloud things because we like to keep things within our company. We have both servers, and then for like storage of the data that we don't need, we have backup on the Blu-ray discs, and we have simple external drives. You can buy a hard drive for really cheap that has 8-10 terabytes of data. And if you're not using this data actively, You can just put it there and extract what you need and use the data that you need, because I don't need on a daily basis the 32 million SNPs. I can get good predictions with 50,000 of them.
Maybe from the swine point of view again, like other companies, you don't want your data out there on the cloud. So again, most of the time you want to keep that data in-house. And then there is the data you use on the database, for example, you don't, there are mechanisms you can use definitely to have large data kind of compressed. And then you can keep that long term. But otherwise, there's the type of data that you have to have access on. Otherwise, in the cloud, let's say from a swine point of view,